Today we're going to be making our skin-on pan-seared salmon with our fonio pilaf and our wilted spinach with our warm bacon vinaigrette. Here we have our mise en place, we have our spinach, we have our salt and pepper, we have our fonio, our carrots, olive oil, celery and onions, and our sun-dried tomato and pepper relish. We're going to start by scoring the salmon. So into the top of the skin, you're going to take your knife and make some slight incisions into the skin. I will be showing you on 1 and 2 pieces of salmon. Insert your knife into the skin and make some slight small incisions, which will help us when we go to searing it off and giving us a crispy skin. Anytime you're serving salmon, or any fish for that matter, skin on, you want to make sure that you have a crispy skin. Now that we've done it on one side, I want to show you once again on the second piece of salmon on how to crisp the skin. Now we have our incisions into the salmon, or scoring for that matter. Now we're going to generously season with salt and pepper. Now we're going to flip our skin side salmon over to the flesh side of the fish and season once again with our salt and pepper. Now that we have our fish seasoned, we want to take it over to the stove and begin our searing technique. Now we're going to add our olive oil in our medium-high heat pan. We have 2 pans on the stove. We have 1 pan for our salmon, and we have another pan for our fonio pilaf. Now we have our salmon skin side down. We're going to drizzle a little olive oil on both pieces of salmon, and then we're going to add some fresh dill. Dill is a great herb that goes great with salmon, gives it a wonderful floral note, and gives a nice flavor to your dish. Now in the hot pan, we're going to add our salmon to the pan one at a time. As the pan starts to bubble, you're going to wait for the bubbles to reside before you add the second piece of salmon to the pan. Anytime you're searing or frying, one easy way to tell if your temperatures of your pan is back up to temperature when adding a food product is when the bubbles reside. Now that we have our both pieces of salmon into the pan, we're going to let the pan get nice and hot and start the crisping of the skin. As you will see, I'm starting to lightly press into the salmon to help give it a crisp skin. You want the pan to be pretty hot, medium high to high, but you don't want the salmon to burn either. But you definitely need the high heat to give you a nice sear on the salmon. Now as the salmon is searing and getting nice and crispy, we're going to start our fonio pilaf. In the second hot pan on medium high heat, we're going to add our carrots and saute lightly for about 1 minute. While that's sauteing, we're going to add our celery and our onions and stir for roughly about 2 minutes or until translucent. So give it some more stirs in the pan. Now we're going to add our fonio pilaf, about 1 cup of cooked fonio. Fonio is a West African grain similar to couscous or quinoa that's been around for hundreds of years. It's high in nutritious value and has a wonderful nutty flavor. Now we're going to check back on our salmon. Our skin is starting to get slightly crispy, and as you see, the pan isn't burning or the fish itself. And one way to tell, not only by looking at it, but by touching the skin to see how crisp the skin of the salmon is. I'm going to take my fish spatula and check under the salmon and see how much longer it needs. While that's continuing to sear, we're going to go back over to our fonio pilaf. We're going to adjust our seasoning with salt and pepper. We'll add some fresh chopped parsley, and we're going to stir. You can definitely finish your fonio pilaf with a little bit of olive oil if you like, to give it a nice little sheen and color, or you can add a little bit of butter for the sheen as well as the flavor. And remember, fat is flavor. Now back to our salmon. We should be good to go. Our skin is nice and crisp, just as we want it. So now we're going to flip it over for a few seconds. Ideally, when cooking salmon, you want to serve your salmon medium, but again, it's to your preference. So now that our salmon has a nice crispy skin on crust, we're going to remove it from the pan and place it onto our plates. Remember, we want our skin to stay nice and crisp. So you want to make sure when you remove it from the pan onto your plate, before you plate it, to leave the skin side up. Now, in a hot pan, on medium-high heat with a little bit of olive oil, we're going to saute our spinach. First by adding some julienne shallots. And now we're going to add our baby spinach. The spinach we're going to saute by adding a little bit of salt and pepper. And we want it to have still a nice full body to the spinach. We don't want it too wilted. So we'll give it a quick saute. So we'll give it a nice saute, and we're going to add in our warm bacon vinaigrette. And just a little bit more spinach to finish off the dish. Because once again, we want the spinach on the plate to have a nice full body to it and not be overly wilted. So no more than maybe 2 minutes, 3 max total. And if you feel as if your spinach gets away from you and gets a little too wilted, you can always add a little bit more spinach in at the end. Now that we have our spinach done with our warm bacon vinaigrette, let's get ready to plate. So now we have our rectangle plate. We're adding our fonio pilaf to the plate as such. Now we're placing our salmon skin side up, nice and crispy as you can see, onto our plate. And last but not least, we're adding our wilted spinach with our warm bacon vinaigrette. And here you have our pan-seared scallon salmon with our sun-dried tomato and pepper relish, our fonio pilaf, which has brunoise carrot, celery, and onions, and fresh parsley, salt and pepper, and olive oil. Enjoy.